Notre Dame is changing, and for a program that has spent more than a century defining itself by tradition, restraint, and an almost stubborn sense of identity, that change feels both overdue and quietly profound. It didn't arrive all at once, and it didn't come with a single headline-grabbing announcement, but over the last 2 weeks, it has become impossible to ignore. The most telling sign isn't a splashy NIL deal, a viral commitment video, or even a new building rising beside the Golden Dome. It's something far more subtle and far more consequential. Notre Dame has finally opened the door, in a meaningful way, to undergraduate transfers, and in doing so has acknowledged that survival and success in modern college football require evolution, not just belief. For years, Notre Dame tried to navigate a shifting landscape with one foot planted firmly in the past. In 2023, that reluctance came at a cost. The program lost recruiting battles it was accustomed to winning, not because of development or culture, but because it failed to fully embrace the realities of NIL and the speed at which elite talent now moves. Even Keon Keeley, now wearing Notre Dame colors, serves as a reminder of that moment, a recruitment shaped by hesitation as much as conviction. The message from the sport was clear then, even if Notre Dame wasn't ready to fully receive it. The rules had changed, and standing still was no longer neutral, it was regressive. Since then, the university has begun to move, deliberately but unmistakably. In a few months, Notre Dame will unveil Jack and Kathy Shields Family Hall, a football facility nearly 50% larger than the GUG, a tangible symbol of commitment to the modern arms race. For the first time, recruits will be able to walk through their everyday locker room on visits, not a staged presentation, but the actual space where Notre Dame football lives and breathes. Recovery resources will improve. Gaps will close. These upgrades were necessary, not luxurious, and while they matter, they are not the most important development unfolding in South Bend. Buildings can level the playing field, but policy changes can reshape a program's future. The real shift has happened quietly, through conversations rather than construction, and it has revealed itself in the transfer portal. Notre Dame has never been a portal-first program, nor does Marcus Freeman intend for it to become one. From the beginning of his tenure, Freeman has framed the portal as a tool, not a crutch, a way to address specific needs rather than replace the foundational work of high school recruiting. That philosophy hasn't changed. What has changed is the size of the toolbox. Historically, Notre Dame limited itself almost entirely to graduate transfers, a restriction rooted in academic rigor and institutional comfort, but one that dramatically reduced the available talent pool. The list of non-graduate transfers in recent memory is short enough to memorize, a reminder of just how narrow the path once was. That path widened this month. Notre Dame signed 8 players from the NCAA transfer portal, and all 8 were undergraduate transfers. That fact alone represents a philosophical pivot that would have seemed nearly impossible just a few years ago. Freeman didn't present it as a revolution, but he didn't downplay its importance either. He described it as the result of strategic, intentional conversations with admissions, conversations grounded in a shared understanding that college athletics, and college football in particular, no longer operate within the same constraints they once did. The world changed, Freeman acknowledged, and Notre Dame had to change with it. This isn't an abandonment of standards, and it isn't an invitation to chaos. Notre Dame didn't suddenly throw open the gates and offer scholarships to anyone with eligibility remaining. In fact, during the first wave of portal visits, several players came through South Bend and left without offers. Fit still mattered, culture still mattered, academics still mattered. In some cases, academics weren't even the limiting factor. Notre Dame simply decided certain players weren't right for the program, a reminder that increased flexibility doesn't mean reduced selectivity. The difference now is that when the right player appears, Notre Dame no longer has to disqualify itself before the conversation even begins. Freeman spoke with noticeable gratitude and perhaps even relief about how seamlessly admissions worked with the football program during this cycle. The process remains detailed, thorough, and demanding,
but it is no longer paralyzing. At the center of it all is Mickey Kidder, the vice president for undergraduate enrollment, who has become the connective tissue between the university's academic mission and the realities of big-time football. Her role isn't glamorous, but it is transformative. Kidder has facilitated conversations with deans across the university, navigating the complex terrain of credit transfers, course equivalencies, and academic expectations. Conversations that once took so long they effectively killed portal pursuits before they had a chance to breathe. Now, those answers come earlier. Decisions are made on the front end, not in the panic at the finish line. Notre Dame is willing to accept more credits from other institutions than it has in the past, not recklessly but thoughtfully, understanding that insisting on perfection in a compressed window is functionally the same as refusing to participate at all. Freeman couldn't hide how much that mattered. For the first time, Notre Dame can pursue high-end talent that doesn't come with a one-year expiration date. For the first time, the program can invest in players who might spend multiple seasons in South Bend, developing within the system rather than passing through it. There was a sense, listening to Freeman, that this shift lifted a weight he'd been carrying, not because it makes his job easy, but because it makes it possible. In the past, the coaching staff often had to operate knowing that even identifying the right player wasn't enough, that institutional hurdles might derail everything before it began. That uncertainty has been replaced with collaboration. Notre Dame hasn't lowered its bar, it has simply agreed to build a longer runway. This evolution doesn't mean Notre Dame will suddenly resemble programs that treat the portal like a shopping spree or brag publicly about how much they're willing to spend. That's not who the Irish are, and Freeman has no interest in pretending otherwise. But the combination of elite retention, targeted portal additions at premium positions, and improved infrastructure paints a picture that is impossible to dismiss. Notre Dame is no longer opting out of modernity under the guise of tradition. It is choosing how to engage with it on its own terms. Still, Freeman was careful to draw a clear line. High school recruiting remains the foundation of the program. Development remains the heartbeat. The portal is a supplement, not a substitute. That balance, Freeman acknowledged, is delicate. Encouraging young players to stay and develop while the outside world constantly tempts them with playing time and money elsewhere is one of the defining challenges of the era. At the same time, there is always the temptation for coaches to bypass development by grabbing a finished product from the portal, sacrificing patience for immediacy. Freeman understands that tension, and he doesn't shy away from it. He frames it as a double-edged sword, one that requires discipline as much as adaptability. Notre Dame, in Freeman's vision, will continue to major in high school recruiting. It will continue to invest in development, trusting that the long game still matters. And when the roster has a void, when a specific need emerges that cannot be filled internally, the program will no longer hesitate to look outward. That's not a compromise of values, it's an acknowledgement of reality. The best programs in college football aren't the ones that cling most tightly to the past or chase every trend indiscriminately. They're the ones that understand who they are, recognize where the game is going, and adjust without losing themselves in the process. For Notre Dame, the acceptance of undergraduate transfers isn't just a roster strategy. It's a signal to recruits, to players, and to the broader college football world that the university is no longer content to be an observer in its own sport. It is choosing to compete, not by becoming something it's not, but by removing the self-imposed barriers that no longer serve its mission. Change at Notre Dame has always come slowly, sometimes painfully so. But when it comes, it tends to last. This one feels different, not because it's flashy, but because it's foundational. The Irish aren't abandoning tradition, they're updating it, one deliberate step at a time. And in a sport defined by constant motion, that might be the most meaningful evolution of all.